Hey guys, another car share. I think I'm gonna call the series the car share. So I wanted to come on here to talk to you about the event last night, which was absolutely amazing. It was actually afternoon. It was a sustainability conference, very small, 250 people top, and I think we were actually less than 250 because there were some spaces available in the auditorium. But it was great, and Vandana Shiva was there as the main key speaker, so I was very excited about it. Well, everybody was, and I got to slightly, very quickly say hi, but not fully meet her. A lot of people were around her. She looked actually exhausted, and she still delivered the most amazing talk, and she was present, and she was heartfelt, and she had her notes, and I think she rolled her eyes a couple of times about some things that people shared, as I did, but I love her. She's really Panchamama. Like, she is Earth embodied in a human. Really, she's Mama Earth for sure. She has that spirit. So anyway, I absolutely love her, and she's so inspirational. But not just that. I think what really people are like, yeah, well, she's been going against the system for such a long time, and she's still around. People like her don't stay around; they get taken out unless they, control a position. I feel deep in my heart when I feel and I see control the position. I don't think she is, and also she doesn't speak like she is. She says it as it is, and she was, in fact, going against a lot of the things that were shared in that conference. I don't think she heard the panels before because she arrived later in the afternoon, which is why she probably was quite tired. But she said things that you know when you know, right? And not calling out anybody, but the subtle information, like you have to learn how to read between the line and actually get the full picture from people so that you can understand their heart. She has a beautiful heart, and I absolutely adore the message she shares because it's very real, and it's about, listen, let's stop fluffing around and trying to be politically correct. Shit has to be done. It's really urgent, and things have to change, and people have to change, and we can't just pretend that a little here, a little there is going to fix anything, which is actually how I feel too. I understand that people sometimes need to take baby steps because it's too much to the system, especially if they're not educated. But I also really acknowledge the fact that there is a urgency to the things that we have to do on this planet. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about the conference because it was really well organized. I am not going to try and say what it was but I'm going to write it down because I cannot remember how you say it. It's a Portuguese name, but it's a beautiful place in Porto that kind of reminds me of the Guggenheim a little bit, and or the Tate. I don't know, it's got like a mixture of things, and it's a foundation, so it's probably the same kind of key people that hold it, but still beautiful gardens, beautiful projects, and to be fair, the woman that was actually hosting, so the MC, she's such a nice lady. I'm going to also put her name down in case you want to check her out, but she's a nice lady. She was really poised, and she was really friendly, and I got to speak to her very briefly to thank her because she was just really amazing, and she organizes all these events, and maybe one day I would love to work with this organization actually, because I feel like there's a lot to do that they can facilitate. And this was actually in collaboration with Università Cattolica, or I think it's called the Catholic University, and one of them and it's good projects. Now, with everything, including projects about sustainability, it's not void of kitty move. Poor cat in the middle of the road, not a good idea. Anyway, so it's not void of agendas, of course. And in fact, this is the thing that I thought was really interesting, ironic, and funny. The two panels before had two ladies that spoke. Well, in one panel particularly. One panel had two ladies that were definitely bioengineers, or food engineers, food tech engineers. I think background anyway. One works for a company called Sinai. I hope I'm saying it right, but anyway, they're the holders of many different companies. So they're like the umbrella company, the parent company of different brands, including Continente, which is a quite big supermarket here in Portugal. I will be honest, they have a very beautiful offering. You go in there, it's like Waitrose, but they also they're very expensive, and so it really baffles me how often I see people like buying things there, but it's not the cheapest supermarket, and even the quality of the food is not better than, say, Lidl, in terms of fruit and vegetables anyway. And of course, if we can buy from the market and go to the farmers, it's better. And in Portugal, we're lucky there are lots of farmers and markets, especially in cities like Braga. Beautiful market that is really accessible financially. Interestingly, I didn't find this in the village to be the case. I think here in the village where I have my property, the market is actually expensive, and I don't know if I get a special price because I don't speak Portuguese and I'm not Portuguese. I'm not sure because I don't have prices out, but in Braga the market is fantastic, and you could probably sense that I actually really like Braga as a city, and Porto, I absolutely adore them. So I am a fan of international settings, of course, but in any case, Continente is a very big supermarket, and sometimes I often go there because they do have some certain things you can't find anywhere else, or it's more competitive. I mean, you have to look. But one thing that I was listening to is the lady was talking about the projects that they have for zero waste, and of course she was talking about one of the projects that was mostly focused on the relationship with the suppliers rather than downstream to the consumers, which I hate as a name, but anyway, the buyers, the consumers, or clients. So she was focusing on that, and I get it. But at the same time, you could see that everything that this company does is very much focused on the relationship they have with their suppliers, which they insist is about bringing little smaller suppliers, but they don't actually say how small the farmers are. So small in comparison to what and who, which was a big question that somebody actually asked, I think. No, definitely, I understood it was in Portuguese. I don't know what she replied. She was talking really fast, and I didn't translate it. Although the conference was meant to be in English, they facilitated the Portuguese. And I get it, it's fine. I am in Portugal, I should be speaking better Portuguese. But I didn't understand fully what she said. But I did understand the question, which was a very interesting one. But I don't think she had a very clear answer about it. So, smaller producers in comparison to what? We don't know. So, of course, question mark. But also, there is any products that are like leftovers, like apples. We can incentivize the producers to make things like apple cider vinegar, or reductions like vinegars, and fine, I like that option. But again, everything she talked about was how do we not waste so that we can make more money, which again, perfectly fine. I think that's a very good use of resources, and we should definitely do that even when we are producing something. It's not about that. But she never in this equation talked about how this benefits the buyers. So one of the things that I truly feel that was missing was that, and I actually at the end asked a question. I wasn't really asking a question, I was actually making a statement, but the topic of my statement was how do you how does it trickle down to the consumer, this zero waste approach, non throwing away food. And one of the things she said, that they have these initiatives, and I can check on the website, where they have these boxes where the food is not pretty and you can buy them. Maybe they do. I'm not gonna say they don't. I haven't checked the website. Maybe they do. But from my experience going into the store, I've never seen these boxes. They're not advertised. When you get in, you don't see them. But also, the only thing I saw is that they have baskets of fruit next to the fruit, where, for example, if a banana is a little riper than the others, you can buy it. But you don't actually pay less. You pay the same price as if you were buying bananas. And people are like, well, I'm going to just buy the greener bananas because they're going to ripen very quickly. I'm not going to take the banana that is actually super ripe at home. Which, by the way, big mistake, because the bananas, you want to eat them ripe and not green, but also you can freeze them and you can make amazing smoothies with them. So zero waste can also be part of your purchase power by buying fruit that is more like a little bit more ripe, and you can benefit from the wonderful sweetness of it and so on. Little side note there. So I was questioning her about it, and that was a reply. And then I said I find it really ironic because she mentioned the project that they have, which I've seen, which is basically they have a project where they have zero residues, pesticides on their produce, and it's not zero, it's just little, and it's basically under the levels that is seen as safe, right? So they're like, oh, zero. Well, not quite zero, but anyway, safer, fine. Not quite organic, but better than. Okay, fine. So I said I find it really interesting and kind of contradictory that you have this project of products produced that says zero residues of pesticides. However, from my experience, which I posted on social media, I've been to your store, I saw this, and then next to it, the gardening section where you have Roundup, which she didn't understand what it was. I'm like, yeah, you maybe want to learn the names of the things you sell, especially when they have to do with Monsanto, but okay. So it's a pesticide and a herbicide. So it's a herbicide mostly, but it does kill everything. So it's she basically didn't even address that question. She went straight to like plastic. Oh, we're reducing plastic. Okay, that's great, but I didn't ask that question. You can see, and people applauded when I talked about this, when I questioned, and this is. And then there was another speaker. Her name was Marta. I don't remember the surname, but she was talking about protein, and I suggested that she might have a conversation or listen to a podcast interview with Brenda Davis and Visanto Melina, because they wrote this book about plant-powered protein, which actually also discusses the environment and the truth about how to farm protein that is sustainable and what it actually means. And because of course the conversation went, well, we can have more plant protein, but then is it sustainable to grow them in any place, or do you have to import them? Actually, the beautiful thing about beans and pulses is that you can grow them pretty much everywhere. Like I managed to grow lentils in my greenhouse, okay, like a plant, but still. So it's possible. They actually grow quinoa here in Portugal, so local quinoa, which of course costs 5 times more than the one imported from Peru, which is another discussion about economics. How can you make it more accessible to people? Because of course people are not going to go buy things that are even more expensive when the prices of everything are going up. The food prices have gone up 30 to 40%. So it's really shocking. So of course you can't expect people to be like, hey, I have a family and I have to buy more like quinoa at this price. I mean, who's gonna do that? Even if you want to be sustainable, like I want to be sustainable, but sometimes products are like no, man. And of course then I look up at Amazon or other companies online, I'm not going to lie about it, to see the comparable prices, because hey, I want to buy say a container to hold food and keep it warm, and that is reusable and is non-toxic and so on. And in the shop here I would have to pay €35. Online I can find it for 15. I mean, come on guys, like the incomes are not going higher, the expenses are. You have to balance that out, otherwise it's not sustainable no matter what. So there is that conversation to be had, which is really important. And we didn't actually really talk about finances in this conference, but I think it's a conversation that definitely needs to be tapped into and tackled, because the reality is people are facing much higher expenses with a salary that is not going higher. So the inflation of prices and deflation of currency is not really matching up. Never did, but right now it's really strongly felt, especially when it comes to the prices of oil and gas and electricity. So again, somebody asked a very good question about how we use resources and why resources are, even eco-friendly resources like solar panels, are impacting nature in a negative way, and the prices are not going lower. So the conversation is complex, very, but the truth is this: people don't want to the conversation are complex because people cannot take steps. Like low-level people, even the mayor of Porto, he cannot take steps without the approval of those big companies that own everything. that's just the reality. And these companies keep governments in their pockets. So one of the conversations that I brought forward was with another lady that the lady that talked about protein. She had a flow chart of the relationships of food and how the policies, the marketing, the shoppers' habits come together. And I'm like, but you didn't even once mention the lobbyists, because the policies are made with lobbyists pushing for policies to be made to be convenient for them. One, that affects marketing, because again, the companies that are paying the lobbyists to put politicians, to set politicians to have certain guidelines, nutritional guidelines to benefit them, also pay for the marketing, are the same people that sell the products, and they shape how the consumers are shopping. So, and I see this even in the vegan community, right? The vegans that are like, oh, vegan food is much better because it doesn't impact the animals, it's better for the planet. Well, actually, when you're eating Beyond Burgers or Beyond Meat or whatever, and you are not helping the planet, my friends, I'm sorry, because that is resources intensive. And so that's not food you want to have. The food you want to have is the humble beans and amazing fruit and vegetables, and also start growing yourself. And on that same panel, there was one person that actually Vandana Shiva would have probably connected to very deeply with. His name was Pedro, who talked about gardens in cities and rooftop gardens and like community gardens. He worked or collaborates now with a company that creates these facilities. Now, of course, the challenge is who is going to pay for them to be implemented, because they do cost money. And I really wish that cities would have a budget for that, because that's essential. Or at least the people that live in a, say, building with a rooftop, they're like, hey, let's get together some money and let's just have a couple of beds where we can grow our own food and come together as a community and actually grow this interest. And the young people are interested in it. So that's brilliant. So he talked about that, and his presentation was the best one. He was really on point. He's a humble human that really cares, and I've invited him on the podcast, so I will be finalizing with him when he will be on, because he's amazing and what he does is amazing. And so that was the only person on that panel that actually talked about solutions. Everybody else was like politically correct. Let's not poo-poo over, the animal industry. Like even one of the biotech ladies was like, how do we feed the animals? I was like, the very fact that you have to think about how you're going to feed factory farming animals with zero waste like byproducts of other things, I mean, that's a horrible conversation to be had anyway. But like the fact that she didn't even see that was horrible, I was just like, wow, okay, never mind. So that was an interesting one. But anyway, I challenged that, and so I wish that I could have had that conversation with Vandana, really. But as I said, she was very tired. A lot of people were around her, and I kind of always get the sense when somebody feels overwhelmed not to approach, because it's not going to be pleasant for them, and I don't want to add on to stress. So that was sad. But I am trying my best to get in touch with her team. I actually left my business cards with the people that organized it, so hopefully they will give it to her, because I emailed her organization a few times to invite her over. So I'm going to find a way to have her on the podcast, because nothing would make me happier than having a conversation with this amazing woman. 50 years doing what she does and understanding the science of the universe. That's one thing that I really love. She mentioned a couple of things about quantum physics that, I'm like, yes, like, the real science of life. And that's what it is. So, and I think because of her Vedic understanding, she completely, in fact, she kind of jabbed a little bit the other ladies when she was like, there's food that is sattvic, which is made you feel good, and that's your nature byproduct, and tamasic, with like you are feeling really tired and sluggish, and not, your energy is not rising, right? At ascension level, your kundalini is not able to rise if you don't put food in your body that is just stimulating that energy to go upwards, because otherwise you stay in kether, but not in a good way. In the root level, kether is the crown. You are staying at root level, and you can't rise to kether, because how how can you bring the energy upwards when it's heavy and dense, and you know, so it's really important. Sorry, I had to dodge a piece of paper. It's really important to understand that, and she mentioned it. I was so happy that she did. So yeah, in Kabbalah you'll find this from Malkut all the way to Kether, going through the tree of life. You need that energy. In Kundalini is the same. You need that energy, that coiling energy going upwards. You know, those sciences are all from the same source. Like the Creator has created everything in a way that is geometrical, mathematical. Those are languages. That is in tune with vibration, sound, and basically hold a frequency that you have to tap into. If you're distracted by money making, politics, and try not to shake the boat too much and being liked by everybody, that energy and that frequency, you'll miss it. It's in front of us every day, and you have to tap into it. I think Vandana really understands how to work with that. This is why the beautiful thing about studying quantum physics is that is essence of the science, the vibration, the frequency, essence of that science. So it is absolutely fantastic to have had the privilege to listen to her in such a small setting. As I said, 250 people, and I don't think we were full. Definitely we're not full. So not 250 people even that were there listening to her, and it was such an intimate space and very well organized. So I'm actually really happy, and that my week started with this amazing event. I honestly had a heart full. Now I was exhausted by the end because I had to drive and so on, and I have been having really early rises. But I can tell you something, by the time I got home and I hit that pillow, I had the best night's sleep ever. I was just out for the count, and it was amazing. So, you sleep well when you had a very fulfilling day, and you feel good, and yeah, it was amazing. Okay, so this is about 21 minutes, which I probably won't be able to post on Instagram, so I'll put it on YouTube for you guys, and I will make a shorter one for Instagram so that you can then link it to YouTube. So I wanted to share this with you, and with a heart full, what an amazing conference. So yeah, if you don't know Vandana Shiva, I don't know where you lived, under a tree probably, or a rock, but go check her out. She's amazing.